What's going on, baseball fans? Jeremy Laracuente here for the Baseball Banter Broadcast. And on this broadcast, we are going to be bantering about the state of the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, the upcoming 2023 season. Now, before I get into my breakdown of the franchise, make sure you head over to laracuenteledger.com as we have a corresponding article up on the state of the Angels. So I will leave links to that down in the show notes below. So make sure you check that out. Now we begin our breakdown with their major acquisitions. Now, when it comes to the acquisitions for the Angels, this was one of the most aggressive teams this offseason. They made several key acquisitions: Tyler Anderson, Brandon Drury, Hunter Renfroe, and Gio Urshela, just to name a few. I think that when you look at what all of these additions will mean for the Angels, this should be a much better club in 2023 than it was in 2022. Now, obviously, all of it is going to be predicated on health and health of their superstars, but these acquisitions definitely will help that. Now, when it comes to the significant injuries, there are two players of note. Obviously, Mike Trout is the most notable name. This is going to be an ongoing issue for Trout, as we know that he has a back condition that can flare up at any time and really hinder what he is capable of doing. Now, even in limited time, Mike Trout is such a dynamic talent that he is capable of producing a crazy good season. But health is going to be the biggest factor. If Trout can stay healthy, this is going to be a guy who obviously is a perennial MVP candidate. The second player that is a significant injury to pay attention to is Jared Walsh. I think that for the Angels, this is going to be a guy who really becomes an important piece, an X-factor type piece for this lineup. I think that there's going to be so much focus on Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout, and rightfully so. You also have Anthony Rendon that's coming back off of injury. You also have the opportunity now with the players that you brought in Brandon Drury, Hunter Renfroe, to really start to try to solidify this roster in a very big way. I think that for Jared Walsh, being able to come back and be healthy and a contributing member, as well as a lefty batter to the very right-handed heavy lineup that the Angels are putting together, can be a very good move. So a healthy Jared Walsh and Mike Trout can truly help the Angels get back to playing in the postseason. Now, when it comes to the top prospect of the Angels, Logan O'Hoppe, their catcher, is the top guy. I think that for the Angels, this is going to be a guy who very much can help them in 2023. When you look at what he is capable of doing, this is going to be a guy who is an excellent defender, who's going to be capable of providing good power for this team. And you put him lower half of the lineup, you don't really have to necessarily look at him as a huge contributing factor on the offensive side. So what he gives you offensively on top of what he can help you do defensively is going to be a guy who you really can rely on over the long term of the Angels' tenure. I think that when you look at what Anaheim is in need of, this could be a player that really helps them solidify everything that they're looking to do in getting back to the postseason in Shohei Ohtani's final contracted year to the Angels. Now, when it comes to a bold prediction, it is not necessarily in the positive light, but Shohei Ohtani gets traded. I think that for the Angels, they're going to find themselves in a very difficult situation. The Rangers have gotten better. The Mariners have ended the longest postseason drought in North American sports. The Astros are an absolute juggernaut. That places them in a very difficult spot in this division. Going forward, the Angels are going to need to make some sort of investment in their future. Obviously, trying to sign Shohei Ohtani to a long-term deal would be their most advantageous route. However, I think at this point, we're not going to see that. If Ohtani goes back to the Angels, he will test free agency first. And that is going to be where the Angels are going to try to have to recoup some sort of value for Shohei Ohtani. Trading him away and then potentially trying to re-sign him in the offseason would be their best option to be able to get the most back. Now, trading away a guy like Shohei Ohtani is not going to be an easy task. As we saw with Juan Soto last year, the return is always going to be less than what the player is capable of, especially a player as unique as Shohei Ohtani. Being capable of being an elite pitcher as well as an elite hitter is something that is an absolute unicorn in our sport. Again, this is a very unique superstar, and you aren't going to get back any semblance of value. It's the same thing like trading Mike Trout. There is no package that any team can put together outside of giving a 15 player for one deal that you can absolutely say that there's going to be an equal measure of success coming back. For that reason, I do think that the Angels are going to try to just get something of value for Shohei and trade him away. Now, when it comes to the divisional rankings prediction, we have an article up on Laracuenteledger.com, as well as a video here on the Baseball Banter Broadcast that we broke down where we predicted and where we believe the Angels will end up. In this division, I believe that they'll end up in 4th place. As I said earlier, the Rangers have gotten better this offseason. The Mariners are a much stronger team overall than the Angels are, and the Astros are an absolute juggernaut, the best team in baseball. And this is going to be a very difficult season for them, especially when you look at the fact that this is Shohei Ohtani's last contract season. There's going to be a lot of pressure added to this Angels roster. Yes, very aggressive this offseason, made a ton of additions to try to help kind of ease the burden of everyone else on that roster. However, there is still going to be a ton of pressure because of knowing Shohei is in his walk year. This is going to be an opportunity for the Angels to try to get some semblance of contention under their belt, under the tenure of Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani together. But it's not going to be an easy thing, and I think that because of that pressure, they are going to end up in 4th place. Now, when we look and grading out the pitching staff, this is a C- grade for this staff. I think that there aren't a lot of pitchers on this staff that you can really bank on. I think that there's an opportunity that some may come into their own. They may further develop their talent, their ability, and their skills, and really help this Angels roster try to head towards a postseason picture. But I don't think that there's enough of a proven track record on any of their players on this pitching staff to really be able to bank on anything higher than a slightly below average grade for the pitching staff. Now, when it comes to the offense, this is a B overall, and that is a very difficult grading for me because I think that when you look at just the value of a guy like Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani, you also add in guys like Anthony Rendon, Hunter Renfroe. This should be an A overall offense. However, the level of injury concerns with Mike Trout, Anthony Rendon, even guys like Hunter Renfroe, down to throughout this roster is so great that you have to temper your expectations. There's also the opportunity that because Shohei is both pitching and hitting, that there's an opportunity that he could also get hurt. So when you look at this roster, offensively, they could be an absolutely dynamic team. Just an unbelievable team throughout the order. But when you look at the questions and the concerns of the injuries, if you lose Mike Trout and you lose Anthony Rendon, most of your offense is now shot. Yes, the additions of guys like Brandon Drury, Hunter Renfroe, and Gio Urshela can help them increase something. But when you lose out on two of your big 3 players, two of your biggest 3 offensive contributors, your lineup now takes a huge hit. And when it comes to Mike Trout, there is always that concern about his back. You lose Trout, and that is a very, very difficult blow. Just look at the way that this season, the last several seasons have played out for the Angels. Trout is not on the field. The Angels have no success. Very pinpoint blank. This is no question about it. This team needs all of their players to be healthy in order for them to try to compete, not just towards the AL West divisional crown, which is highly unlikely because of the Astros, but in the AL wildcard picture. We have 3 wildcard spots now. The Angels could and should be in and around that. But if their offense can't stay healthy, this is going to be a team that is going to struggle throughout 2023. That's why they end up with a B overall grading as opposed to what it should be, which is much higher than that. Now, when it comes to grading the offseason, they also get a B grading from me. I think that there was a lot that was done in the right avenue for the Angels. I think that they needed to shore up more of their pitching staff, however, in order for them to be able to get a higher grade than a B. I think that for this roster, there is a very strong possibility that they could absolutely blow all expectations out of the water. When you have guys like Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani, Anthony Rendon, Brandon Drury, who's coming off of a career year, Hunter Renfroe, who's consistently underrated in my opinion, you have all the makings of a roster that is capable of doing great things. However, they did not add enough for me this offseason to their pitching staff. I think they needed more in that staff, whether it be the bullpen, the rotation, all of the above, to be able to have an overall excellent offseason. But that is not a knock on the offseason that they did have. They were one of the most aggressive teams this offseason and really did do a good job in building out and kind of facilitating depth in their roster. So they had a very good offseason, but a B overall grade. Now, when it comes to grading out the franchise as a whole, it is a C+. As I've said, when it comes to this roster, they did a good job of adding depth, but there's a lot of questions of health concerns, not enough that was done for the pitching staff as a whole. And you also have to question the ownership here. Artie Moreno was said to be looking to sell the team, which in my opinion would have likely have been a better move for the franchise as a whole. Now he's holding on to it. So what is the commitment level? Yes, he is investing the most money of any team in the division right now, in the American League West division. But most of that money is tied up into Anthony Rendon, Mike Trout, and Shohei Ohtani. Beyond that, how much more is he willing to invest than he's already invested? So there's a lot of questions as to what this organization is really going to be able to do and provide their fan base with in 2023 and beyond. So there's a lot of question marks to me about this franchise and not a lot of solid answers to be able to figure out the direction of this squad. I also think that there's real questions about whether or not anything can be done to help Mike Trout stay on the field. Real solid questions as to whether or not trading Shohei Ohtani is going to be the most advantageous route for the Angels to go this season, because more than likely they're not going to be able to re-sign him once he hits free agency. And more than likely, he's not going to sign an extension before hitting free agency. So I think that there's an opportunity for the Angels to try to figure out where they are. I think that if they have career years from some guys, health throughout the entire lineup for the entire season, they could push towards a wild card spot. But I don't know that that's necessarily enough to really help the direction of this franchise long term. So overall, a C+ grading, a bit above average, but still an organization that has a lot of question marks to it. But I want to hear from you. Let me know, baseball fans, Angels fans, how are you feeling about your squad and everything that we've gone over here today on the state of the 2023 Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim? Let me know that down in the comments, or find me over on Twitter at banter_baseball. You can also find us on our other social media platforms, Instagram and TikTok at Baseball Banter Broadcast. Again, head over to laracuenteledger.com for a corresponding article on the state of the Los Angeles Angels, as well as many other teams in Major League Baseball, as we break down each team throughout the course of the last part of spring training here before we get to the regular season. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in. If you want to show more support for the channel, you can head over to our merchandise shop, baseballbanterbroadcast.com, where we have a ton of promo codes up you can use to save on some banter merch. This is YouTube, so you know the deal. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the bell for post notifications, as most of our audience isn't subscribed to the channel yet. So we want to continue trying to grow this baseball community here on the Baseball Banter Broadcast. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in, and I will catch you on the next broadcast when we banter about the world of baseball. Peace.